Hello Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and today I'm going to do something a little different. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Warmachine. Now, before I continue on from here, disclaimer note, I haven't played Warmachine since Mark 1. I have not played any of Mark 2. I have no idea what they've changed in Mark 2, except for a little bit of tidbits from my friend who used to be a press ganger for Privateer Press. But from my understanding, the general ideas that I'm going to be talking about still hold true in the current rendition of Warmachine, which I believe they're calling Mark 2. Anyone who's wondering why haven't I played Mark 2? Well, one day, due to some car break-in, all of my Cryx and all my Cygnar were stolen, and I just had no drive to pick them back up. Because there was a lot. I had practically every model that was out at the time, and I think I could conjure up almost 2,000 points from each side, and that was really expensive back then because they were only using pewter models. So it got very pricey. I think each army was worth, I think after it was all done, I could probably have argued maybe $500–700 reselling it and be able to get that for the army. I could be over-exaggerating, you know, but for me it was huge, these armies that I had for this series. I had to actually, I had to like make more shelves to fit all the units to put them on display. It was ridiculous. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to talk about like a basic principle with Warmachine, what you should be thinking about when building armies for Warmachine and all that stuff. One thing though, before I continue, going to ramble on some more, forgive me, one thing that I'll say that I think Warmachine has over games like Warhammer 40,000 is fluff evolution. Now, many people may not find the fluff too great in Warmachine, but one thing that even some of the stupid stuff that happens in it, there's still what I love about it is it's evolutionary. What happens in Book 1 transfers into Book 2, and Book 2 transfers into Book 3. What I mean by this is when the way Warmachine tends to work is when they make a new series, like again they could have changed this, but back in Mark 1's day, when they introduced a new book, it altered some of the rules, introduced some new rules, added new units, and added a piece of the story to continue to basically justify these units. A good example is in the original book, each army I think had 3 casters. Those 3 casters in Book 2 got epic versions. Their stats changed, their abilities changed, and this was all dictated by the fluff of what happened in the story. That's what I like about this. Things that happened between Book 1 and 2 happen and stay there. And because of this, depending on which models you use in your army, and essentially which version of the caster you use kind of dictates which time period in Warmachine you are playing in. So, you're using Epic Striker. Oh, you're doing this time period. Asphyxius is now trying to do this ploy. Oh, you're using that version of Striker. Okay, so this battle just happened, and now this is happening, and this is what he's off doing. So that's what I like about the system, is essentially you can easily dictate which time period you're in, and the story evolves as the books come out. Let's go on to army setups. I'm going to mainly use the Cryx in this because they're the ones that I have retained the most knowledge of from Mark 1. Big thing with anything in Warmachine is it's caster oriented. What I mean by this is in Warhammer 40k, you can basically, you pick and match your units and, have them work to complement each other. Warmachine, you do the same thing, but everything practically focuses around your caster, or casters, depending on if you're doing 1 or 2 caster battles. If your units don't mesh well with your caster, then the army falls apart. Good example is Haley for Cygnar. Haley was had a lot of abilities, and Haley and Kane had a lot of abilities that really boosted up shooting range. I believe Haley's feat for a while, I'm not sure if it still is she got you to fire an extra shot in your rate of fire. So if you only had sword knights in your army, Haley's feat was pretty much useless because Haley was the only one with a gun in that army. Sword Knights don't have guns. But if you had squads of long gunners, then you could just mow down the field with bullets once you use Blitz. So it's very big on the caster. I've noticed that whenever I tried to just play with, the army unit compositions, they played alright, but when I tailored them to the caster I was using, they played phenomenally. So whenever you're picking up anything in Warmachine, always look at the caster first, because the caster is going to help you decide what units will benefit you the most. Sometimes this is a little bit easier because there are a couple of casters that are broad casters that will work with practically every unit. Now, going to go again with the Cryx because they're the ones I know the most. I'm only going to do the couple of casters that I've ever worked with. And I'm going to be basically just categorizing them in what kind of level of difficulty it is to work with these guys and build armies for them. One caster, just off the bat, that I'm not going to mention is Diagra. Because when I played, nobody played as her. Because no one could figure out what her deal was. She wasn't really good at anything, but she wasn't bad at a lot of stuff either. So no one really knew how to work with her. I've yet to see someone actually play with Diagra and play with her well. Or at all in general. So that's one caster I can't really say much about. One of the easier characters to work with is Asphyxious, Lich Lord, Iron Lich Asphyxious. As he goes on, he gets a little bit more specialized, but for the most part, he's a generally all-around caster. He's got enough abilities to benefit either close combat or mid-range or long-range usage. He's got a lot of good offensive spells, and he's also a beast by himself. I've actually had Asphyxious lose his entire army and take out half of the opposing force before he dropped. So he is very good on his own, and when you do have units with him, you could probably easily find ways to have his abilities complement them and have their abilities complement his. So he's a really nice broad caster, one that you can pick up and easily build an army without any problems. Now, in my personal opinion, the easiest caster to do anything with is Lich Lord Termerus. The reason I say Lich Lord Termerus is because of this. Whenever I played one of my friends, or anybody, in Warmachine, I lost horribly. But if I played as Lich Lord Termerus, I actually would win a lot of the times. One of my friends to this day has yet to beat me when I play Lich Lord Termerus, and he doesn't know why. And it's not like I psych him out or anything. He focuses and he tries, and this man is a genius when it comes to strategy. I always tend to win with Termerus. Change out Termerus for another caster, complement the army to make it work for the caster. Floors me every time. So I find that Termerus has some of the best abilities that works with practically every unit. You can always find some way to make him work, and his abilities just in general complement so much and encumber so much ability that even for novice strategists like myself can probably find it easy to work with Lich Lord Termerus. One thing also note with a lot of them, if you go with a lot of the Lich Lords, you want to be careful about the living units that you pick. Because some of them are living and are not fearless. And the casters and some of the undead units cause fear. I had this happen to me once. A bunch of my units ran up, an undead model got right next to them, they ran away. And they were on his side. So it was like, ah, that thing's coming to help us, run! And you're like, what? No, he's on your side! And an entire flank was lost because I didn't think to realize that because they aren't fearless, they are affected by this other unit's fear effect. So be careful with that when working with Cryx. One of the more advanced casters where I find that you have to really focus a little bit more on how you use them and what units you give them is Gorshad. Gorshad is more of a very heavy close combat based caster, at least from what I can remember. He has a lot of great abilities, but they really don't work to their full advantage unless he's in close combat, especially his feat, which lets him summon Bane Thralls. So you can, and it's a way of cheating in a sense, because you can only have one of those units in your army. Oh, you have one unit of Bane Thralls, summon Bane Thralls, now I've got 2. And from the description, they said, they never mentioned that they don't go away after a turn, so they can stay on the field until they die, unless they change that in Mark II. But Gorshed, I found, was a little bit trickier. You need to play around and really be more careful about which units you pick and choose to be with him. But he was very good with a lot of close combat units, especially since he had that teleport ability, where, so you can go, oh, okay, he runs in, bam, he cuts through a couple of people, okay, he's now gonna die. Oh, he killed one person, little slave girl appears, sacrificer, summon a jack right in front of you, now they have to deal with that. So, again, he had you required a little bit more strategy and tactic when working with Gorshed. But nothing was as difficult as Skari. She is probably by far the most difficult caster to work with, primarily because you need to really be paying attention to what you're doing with her, what abilities you're using, and what units are around her, because she was very heavy on the units around her, because she could kill herself fairly easily, but she had a couple of abilities, but she required units around her to fully utilize these abilities, where she could literally just, oh, there's someone behind that rock, I can't see him, well, I kill this dude and drop a bunch of damage on that one guy behind that rock. So she was a very powerful caster. The only problem is she was only powerful if done right. She's not like Lich Lord Termers, where he can be a monster powerhouse however you play him. She is really a powerhouse when used correctly. If used incorrectly, she will not be that great of a caster. And so, other things I can really give out is also look at your unit's abilities. One thing with Warmachine is a lot of pretty much all the armies play like Eldar armies. And by that I mean each unit is specific for a specific type of role, and trying to use them outside that role isn't always going to work. So you gotta be really conscious as to what you want to do. So like if for Signar, okay, I want to be good at long-range combat and semi-okay in close combat. Okay, gun mages, long gunners, either Haley or Kane, because those are going to be the guys that really help you out the most. I want to be more close combat-y, I want to be more of a close combat-y type character. Okay, Nemo, because he has a lot of abilities that boost up Jack stats, and Striker, because Striker is a beast in close combat, and then Stormblades and Sword Knights, because they just wreck house. And, of course, the appropriate Jacks. But the Jacks themselves kinda explain right in their text what they're good at, so they're probably the easiest ones to pick out. It's the small units, the non-Jack units, that you really got to be focused in on and decide what you need. Another good thing with Cryx is arc nodes. Since all their bone jacks have arc nodes, they will make you very deadly. Because if they're all spread out, then the other player's got to go, there's no place safe. Either way, someone's getting attacked by a magic attack. Because of how you place the jacks with arc nodes. Arc nodes allow you to pick if they're in your psychic powers range, then you count all psychic powers from that model. So in a sense, you kind of double your range with that, and you may be able to see units that you couldn't normally see. Because if like there's a building right here, if there's like a building right here and a unit's behind it, and there's a bone jack with an arc node right here, he can see the unit, so he can fire a spell at them. At least that's from how I remember it. I could be totally wrong on that. Again, it's been ages since I played Warmachine, so that last bit may not be correct. But in essence, the general information I've just given about, working should be still pretty valid today. If you have any comments, if you want to correct me on anything, because again, this is not something I'm perfect at. I'm just going off of what I remember when I used to play. So, just a quick recap is be mindful of your caster, because your caster will be the cornerstone for your army. Once you have your caster decided, you then have to really look at what they're capable of doing and find units that complement that type of abilities they have. And the big thing to also remember is specialization. If you have a bunch of long gunners, then you're only going to be good at shooting and you're going to have no close combat defenses. And you better make sure that your setup is done where there's a very small chance that there'll be enough dudes after they get into close combat with you to really be a problem because of all the bullets you fired at them. And that is pretty much all I can really say. Again, if there's any tips or strategies that you guys have, leave a comment in the comments section. If there's any type of thing that they might have changed since I've done Warmachine, like, you know, if Asphyxious isn't as broad as he used to be, if he's more specific, you know, correct me. But, you know, just one thing is, you know, just keep everything civil. And so that is all for right now. Until next time, Fearless Gamers, take care.